Here we go. It's the WTOP Huddle for Week 5. I'm Dave Johnson. This is the place where everyone can have an opinion, but you have to share yours on Twitter. That's why God invented social media. And if you can go and have your opinion on social media, but we're going to share our opinions on what's going on with the Washington football team, the NFL. We have Dave Preston, Rob Woodfork, Chris Gian, and George Wallace. I like to call it my all-star panel. And we're going to begin, of course, with the Washington football team. As expected, a loss to the Ravens on Sunday. But I will just start off, gentlemen, by saying that was the response I needed to see from Dwayne Haskins on Sunday. I think that's evidence of what happened on Sunday against the Ravens, that Dwayne Haskins deserves an opportunity to continue, no matter what happens the rest of the way, to be the quarterback for this team. That 4-turnover performance against Cleveland could have sent him, and we've seen this happen to quarterbacks in Washington, sent Dwayne Haskins into a downward spiral. He knew there was noise about, the 4-turnover performance. Instead, he responded on Sunday. No, it wasn't perfect, but he had 314 passing yards, a career high. He did enough on Sunday against the Ravens to show me, he does deserve a chance to show and develop what he can do with the Washington football team. And as I said, he wasn't perfect. You think about Ron Rivera going for that fourth down. It was 4th and goal from the 13-yard line or something, and it didn't work. And then they didn't get any points out of that situation. But the beauty of that situation, that was further example, this is a rebuilding year. Go ahead and try situations that may or may not work, because you're really not anxiety-ridden over wins this year. It's about building it for the future. I know that contradicts some of what we talked about in previous weeks, that this is a win-now league, but this team does have to build for the future to some extent. And that will bring me to Rob Woodford, because that is something that, as you illustrated and documented in your NFL preview, finally you had a situation where the Washington football team, they were not apologizing for going through a transition, rebuilding, whatever phrase you want to put on it. It is an important part of the process. In the NFL, it's not supposed to be a 5-year process, but you do have to make a step before you can run in the NFL.
Well, you do, but, at the same time, you have to take each game sort of week by week, and you obviously have to try to win that game. So there doesn't have to be this, let's try and win, or we try to build for the future. There's ways to do it, both ways. And going forward on 4th down is a great example of that. Not only is Dwayne Haskins getting an opportunity to show that he can direct a drive, a scoring drive at a time where you have to have it, it's also helping them in the game situation. You get that, and you get a touchdown instead of a field goal, or you get a field goal instead of a punt, or what have you, and then you get yourself in a situation where you're going toe-to-toe with the Baltimore Ravens, a team that a lot of people, myself included, think is a Super Bowl contender. So I thought it was good, especially after all of the what we talked about in terms of the turnovers from Dwayne. He didn't have any in this game. I feel like that was the most important thing. And also all of the attention that we were giving Coach Ron Rivera for not using timeouts. It looked like he was kind of turning the page from that and actually doing some things that made sense, both within the context of the rebuild and within the context of trying to win this football game.
All right, I'm going to hand off the ball to you, George. You were there watching that game. Your thoughts?
Well, the thing I have, it kind of contradicts. So he used his timeouts at the end of the game, right? But at 4th and 13, you kick a field goal there, and it's a 2-score game. Okay, I don't. If you're testing Dwayne Haskins there, do it at 4th and goal from the 6. Don't do it at 4th and goal from the 13, because to me, that's telling me you're not trying to win that game. 4th and goal from the 13 is a really tough play. And if you're testing that quarterback, you gave him the answer before the test. If he said he has to be in the end zone, okay, and he failed it. You got to throw the ball to the end zone. We know that. But I have a problem with that, because then he goes and uses his timeouts at the end of the game to try and get the ball back. So I get it with the rebuilding, and it's Dwayne Haskins' team. I still think he's lukewarm with the quarterback, because he even said this week, it's Dwayne's game to start, and we'll see what happens. He mentioned on Monday that Dwayne is in a tough situation with our football team, because he did some good things and some bad things. So to me, that's still a lukewarm, it's not a huge endorsement for me. And if you're, the biggest problem I have is that on that 4th and 13, if you're trying to win the game, Who said that? If my man Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. I just don't think that's the time to test him on 4th and 13 because you kick a field goal there, which you would do any other time, and it's a 2-score game, and you try and get the ball back. It's just not a high percentage opportunity. That's all.
Okay. Well, you might not have been able to see it, but it was not a lukewarm. It was a very positive endorsement for Rob Woodfork. He was shaking his head the whole time. All right, Chris Cheon.
Thanks, Rob.
Got you, buddy. I got you.
So, yeah, he's got your back, even though we're on computer. I don't know how that works. Chris, your thoughts?
Lukewarm, George mentions. I think that was kind of the performance from this team. I think they played not to get blown out. Every time I saw them run a play, it basically was a wide receiver screen or it was a run. Now, I understand you're not working with upper echelon talent at the wide receiver position. I mean, Dontrell Inman, not exactly getting separation. Logan Thomas, I think Dave Preston has pointed out before, is a converted tight end. I think the offensive line, we point a lot of fingers at them. I think they played decently. They gave Dwayne enough protection. And Dave, you mentioned the statistics and, Dwayne putting up those numbers. He didn't take enough chances for me. And I'm kind of okay with that to an extent because he is playing like a young guy where he feels like his job is on the line. He didn't want to make interceptions. And so he played okay. I just never really thought Washington felt like, we're going to take a shot here. Like George mentioned, if you're going to go throw the ball into the end zone, if it's 4th and goal at that position, it's like they just they knew the Ravens were better than them. They didn't want to get blown out. And so they did okay. I'm encouraged, I guess, from Dwayne, but I'm not blown away or anything. He at least bounced back from the Cleveland game.
Maybe that's
Chris. I agree with you. Chris, I agree with you. I don't think they were playing to win that game at all.
Right.
I think you saw wide receiver screens. You didn't. And now maybe the downfield shots, they weren't in the game plan. Scott Turner mentioned it because they didn't think they could get it done. But I agree with you. I don't think they played to win that game.
Well, that's a new marketing slogan. We're lukewarm. I mean, didn't you get it? Didn't you see the release? Let's rally behind it. But having said that, again, whether you say not play to win or not play to get blown out or however you phrase it, you take away that Lamar Jackson 50-yard touchdown run, they're still right in that game. I know you can't do the woulda, coulda, shoulda, ifs, but anyway.
That's the thing. And that's the thing. Even if they weren't playing to win, the Ravens did not blow them out. That was not the Ravens' A game.
Right.
Yeah. No, they I think in the Baltimore media is talking about that this week. It's not like they're holding a parade on Howard Street in Baltimore because of the win over the Washington football team. All right, Dave Preston, you've been patiently – I know you're concerned about the defense. I can see it in your angst-ridden face. They've given up the points, 30 points, 3 straight weeks. But what else is on your mind?
What's also on my mind is the fact that, what I liked about Sunday, Antonio Gibson, 4 catches, 82 yards, led the team in rushing for the 3rd straight week. So he's a guy who I think as the season progresses, they can give him more opportunities, and that will be a good thing. I mean, he's a converted wide receiver from Memphis playing as a pro running back. So there's going to be some growing pains for him this season. That's a positive. A negative would be the fact that this defense really hasn't stopped anybody since the Philadelphia game. And that was a Philadelphia team that didn't have their starting running back and had a banged up offensive line. When they've needed to stop teams, whether it's been the Cardinals, the Browns, or this past week, the Ravens, they haven't been able to do so. The Ravens had a stretch where, yes, they punted on their first possession, but then they scored 3 of the next 4 times they had the ball. They scored their first time out in the second half to kind of, even though there was plenty of time left, that 18-point lead felt like a huge canyon. This almost reminds me of the first season under Joe Gibbs 2.0, when the offense just wasn't really there, and they had a highly rated defense because teams kind of just ran the ball in the second half because they knew that the Gibbs team of 2004 was not going to put more than 15, 20 points on the board. So what concerns me is the fact that they're not converting 3rd downs, and not just that, they're last in the league at 33%. Almost half of their 3rd downs are 3rd and 7 or higher. So that's the last thing you want for a first-year quarterback, which I'm still calling Dwayne Haskins because Sunday was his 11th start. You can't expect this kid to convert 3rd and 7 and above 50% of the time.
Well, that's hard period in the NFL, and that's why they have that ratio you talked about. Is there? It seems like they're always facing are in that when they get in a third down situation, it's third and long. Before we move on and look ahead of the Rams, what else is concerning our WTOP huddle this week? Feel free to jump in. George, you look cross.
No, I mean it's the defense, like Dave mentioned, does concern me a little bit. If you have all these studs up front, it's definitely the stronger point of this team. But again, you have the 30 points a game. Maybe you try and you look. I think they have to buckle down too on this defense. I mean, some of the secondary the other day. I mean, Landon Collins has not had. I didn't think has had a good couple weeks. Troy Apke, some of the angles he took on that touchdown. I mean, I don't know what he's doing out there. So I think the defense, for all the talk and the hype we gave them, they need to start buckling down and playing some defense and keeping this team in games, because you see what you're going to get from the offense. It's another point of Chief's point about the offensive line. I think for me, so far this year, that has been the group that has surprised me,
And
as well as they played.
And dealing with injuries as well. All right, the Rams, the next assignment for this team, and who knew the Rams were part of the NFC East? Because I don't know who does the schedule for the NFL, but all three wins are 3-1 against the NFC East teams, the Cowboys, the Giants, and of course, most recently the Giants. They also beat the Eagles, a chance to go for the NFC East sweep. Rob Woodfork, what do we make of this? How do we judge a Rams team that has played the worst division basically in the NFL?
Well, here's the thing. They play in one of, if not the best division in football. So it's hard to kind of handicap how good they are. All we know is that they are extremely talented at some very important positions. And of course, I'm thinking about Aaron Donald and the way that he's going to bench press the entire Washington offensive line on his way to like 9 sacks. He's probably going to break a record or something. He got Jalen.
After I just gave the O-line credit too.
Yeah. They haven't seen an Aaron Donald yet. I mean, he's just a man among boys out there, and there's a lot of really, really good offensive linemen in this league. And I mean, he's incredible. I mean, just watching him on the HBO show
Hard Knocks.
Yeah, he unbelievable. So I expect him to have a massive game on Sunday. I'm sure that having McVay back in town, he's going to want to show out and show off a little bit with his offense, especially knowing that you can take advantage of that defense. And just hitting on the Washington defense a second, you can't expect the defensive line to win all the time. And that's basically what they're asking them to do. They're lackluster at linebacker. Their defensive backs are usually pretty bad. On a good day, they're okay. But this is going to be a problematic matchup for them. And I didn't think the Rams were going to be this good. And I still don't know how good the Rams really are, because once they get the NFC East out of there, they got to play the 49ers twice. They got to play the Cardinals. I don't know how good the Cardinals are at this point, but I mean, that's a team that can give you problems too. So once we get into the meat of their divisional games, we'll find out how good they are. But I mean, right now we just know that they're good enough to manhandle the NFC East.
Well, and that's the beauty of the show. We don't come to conclusions. We contradict each other, and we end up in one big cul-de-sac of football, and that's what we love. Dave Preston, as you said, the return of Sean McVay was on your mind coming to FedEx Field.
Yes, well, I'm just happy that he won't be able to bring Jay Gruden back to FedEx Field to give him the game ball like Kyle Shanahan did with his dad last year. You look at the Rams. Yes, they're 3-1. They're another team with a young quarterback that, when you look at the growth of Dwayne Haskins this year, there's a lot of examples each week, whether it's been Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield this past week, Lamar Jackson, another young quarterback, and Jared Goff this week. And you've seen each of these guys take the starting job by the horns in their first season or shortly thereafter, and either lead the team to the playoffs or show growth, which is what Baker Mayfield did. Granted, Cleveland, you could not grow at all and still show growth in theory. It's going to be another tough week for the Burgundy and Gold. I see another uphill battle for this team. But then again, I don't gamble often, but I always liked it when a West Coast team played in that 1 o'clock window. Granted, it doesn't work all the time, but you think that these guys this deep into the season, their body clock is still at 10 a.m. So that might give the Burgundy and Gold a window of opportunity. they need to play. They need to play with the lead. They're near the bottom in the league and running the football. And one of the reasons why is that they're always having to play catch up. They're always having to, throw the ball 20 times in the fourth quarter instead of like in the Eagles game where they were able to give the ball to, Barber, down the stretch. And yes, he only gained 25 yards on 17 carries, but they killed a ton of clock. Burgundy and Gold need to grab an early lead. Can they do so against this Rams team that gave up a big lead at Buffalo before coming back? Might be able to happen, but I'm not holding my breath.
Well, it's a good point you make because, look, as we just documented, this Washington football offense is on training wheels still. So it's not a team built to come from a big deficit. It would be helpful to get a lead. I think they got a lead in Cleveland, but then you have to hold the lead or protect the lead as well. Christian, I know you're chomping at the bit. Your thoughts, the Rams Sunday against Washington in Landover.
Yeah, I just am not really sure that Washington has the secondary play to keep up with guys like Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee. They have Cam Akers coming back for them as well. So really, the Rams have 3 running backs that they can be working with here. Pretty solid offensive line. Defensively, I just, again, Washington can be exposed in the 8 to 12 yard range passing wise. And Jared Goff, McVay, I just wish, sometimes we George and I used to talk on the round table years ago about Sean McVay glowingly and his creativity and his pace and his rhythm with how the offense operates. I just would love to see something like that here, up-tempo. And Dwayne isn't there yet, and who knows if he'll get there. But I just don't see Washington being able – I'm kind of surprised it's only an 8-point spread that Washington's only getting 8. I kind of think this is in the Rams winning by 13 range, even though they didn't play all that well against the Giants last week. I just think that this offense too strong. And we've talked about Aaron Donald at length, Jalen Ramsey too. I think McLaurin still has a good game, is able to get some plays, but overall, I just don't see where Washington's able to keep this with less than 10 points.
All right, that's why we call him Vegas Cheon. He brings up the spreads. We'll get to that in a moment. Rob Woodfork, our NFL professor. We look forward to his recaps each and every week on NFL.com. As we're running out of time here on this week's WTOP Huddle, what else around the league is on your mind? We just saw the other night, Packers are now 4-0. Apparently Aaron Rodgers can still play. Tom Brady with his Bucks take on the Bears in the Thursday night game. That's rather intriguing. What else is on your NFL mind?
Right now the Green Bay Packers look like the team to beat in the NFC, and if it's not them, then it probably is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they do have a strong defense. They've got a really good, bounty of weapons around Brady. 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. He didn't do that in New England. I don't know that he had 5 different receivers in New England, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he does up against a pretty strong Bears defense that's kind of living off of reputation, but still has some guys on that defense that can make life difficult for a quarterback and for an offense in general. So the Foles magic only exists in Philadelphia. So I expect the Buccaneers to have a nice night there in the Windy City.
Chris, before we get your betting pick, any other NFL thoughts? Dave, George? Real quick. Anything else?
Let's see the next coach. Let's see the next domino coach is going to fall. Falcons lose again. Cowboys aren't going to change their coach, but they're just not. First time they've given up 30 points, 3 straight games since 1960. They just continue to go down. Let's see the next domino that's going to fall here. That's what I'm looking for.
Dave Preston, you've already made all of Cleveland mad. What else is on your mind?
I think if the first quarter of this NFL season is any harbinger of what we're going to see records fall across the league offensively. Receivers catching 100 passes all over the place, 4,000, 5,000. Dare we even say maybe a 6,000-yard season tossed by somebody? We're going to because Prescott. Yeah, I know. Can you believe that? He's on a pace for, I think, $7 grand. So
yeah.
So another thing to keep one's eye on, the New England-Kansas City game was pushed due to COVID-19 tests. The Tennessee-Pittsburgh game was postponed. I think we're going to see a couple of more little bubbles and little ripples schedule-wise due to COVID-19 testing before the NFL really is able to clamp down on things.
All right.
I think
Dave
we're going
Messer.
to actually lose a game or two this season. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one or two teams that doesn't play 16 games because of that.
But again, baseball's had to, anytime you get in this drought, it's going to happen. And Dave just mentioned $7,000. So we'll finish with Christian talking money here. Go ahead. What's your game you're really keeping an eye on?
I wanted to take the Cleveland Browns plus 2.5 at home against Indianapolis. I kind of find that line to be a little bit too weird, though. Seems too obvious to take Cleveland there. So I'm going with Kansas City against the Las Vegas Raiders. Chiefs 12.5-point favorites. I don't think the Raiders have anybody in the secondary that can compete and cover the Chiefs' pass catching weapons. And the Chiefs have played the Ravens and the Patriots consecutively. They're used to high-level talent. I think they just smoked the Raiders this weekend.
All right. There you have it, the WTOP Huddle. We didn't solve anything, and we didn't have to. We just appreciate your time.